years.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, Ariel is correct. The beginning of the parsha is not the bigdei kehuna, but after that, the lion's share of the parsha is bigdei kehuna. Now, it is a bit odd, at some level, that the bigdei kehuna gets so much press. Now the chinuch really develops this, and it's. I mean, it is pshat, and the chinuch just builds on it. But it is a shame that Eli is sick, because Eli also likes this idea. Why are the bigdei kehuna so important?
They make the Kohen look fancy.
Yeah, so there are two reasons. The simplest reason is what the pasuk says. Right, this is Perek Chet pasuk Bet. It's for glory and splendor.
Right, when you got the Kohen should look impressive.
Yeah, it should look impressive because.
Big kahuna.
Yeah, because that's where it comes from.
Yeah, I know.
That's where it comes from. The reason I think is because people are affected by it. As much as we don't want to be affected by it, we are affected by our surroundings, and therefore, pomp and circumstance is important for a reason.
No, I know. I said before I came to Israel, I went to this really cool exhibit at the Met called Art and the church.
Yeah, and the church uses a lot also.
Looking at like the crowns of the Pope, it's rubies and emeralds, and it's imposing. That's
exactly the point.
The same idea.
Correct. Right, and the chinuch says that the same thing is true of the Ktoret, which is what I wasn't fair to Eli yesterday, right? Or 2 days ago, meaning he was quoting the chinuch, just without realizing it, right? That the chinuch says the same thing as the Ktoret, because it's not just visual, it's also olfactory and auditory, right? And
smells,
everything, the smells and the sights and the sounds, right? So we have you start off the day with a formal call. Has the sun risen? Yes, the sun has risen. Right? Like it's like the and we have honor guards everywhere. Yeah. Right? We have honor guards everywhere. Like that's like half of Maseches Tamid is about exactly. It's like Bakim Velis, and it makes sense. And I wrote my Dvar Torah this week that according to the Ralbag and Yaakov Mecklenburg and the Ktav HaKabbalah. That is the point of the bells on the Me'il as well for the Kohen Gadol. It's not for everybody else. It's the Kohen Gadol also needs to be put in the right mode. I mean, everybody needs to be put in the right mode. So you wear fancy clothing, you have fancy smells and fancy sights and fancy sounds and fancy, And at one level, that's just what it is, right? Is that we are affected by these things. That's just life. What? Yeah, and then you have to wash your hands, and there's a whole procedure, right? It's protocol. It's protocol, right? Protocol makes you feel special. Yes, that is exactly it.
Interesting. There's also a stark contrast between what the Kohen wears and what the Levium wear.
Of course, because when you have a strict protocol, right, you have strict guidelines to make it feel chashuv, right? Everyone has their role, right? No one gets to take anybody else's role, right? You don't get promoted, right? And look, there is something, as much as this is like anti-American and anti-democratic, there is something to the regality that comes from a non-meritocracy, right? From a genetic, right, status.
Yeah, no one thinks the president is so chashuv.
Right, but the way that, even though in England it is, the queen has no real power, still everybody cares about the queen and the prince and the princess, who they're marrying, how they look, what they're wearing. Are they wearing the right gloves? Are they wearing the right socks? Are they wearing the right whatever?
They feel like they represent the nation.
Exactly, and that comes partially because it's inherited, right? It's mysterious. It's like I was saying, like Lord of the Rings, right? It's like Aragorn, right? Ooh, he's Isildur's heir. He's been lost for generations, right? Like there's something magical about it.
I mean, you can still argue that idea that political exists somewhat dynasties in the American.
Yeah, I mean, yes, even in America, where theoretically it's a meritocracy, yes, you have the Bushes and the Clintons and the Roosevelts and whatever, where it's and the Adams, right? Yes,
it's not the same. People don't feel the same level of.
No, not at all.
I mean, when you're near a Bush, though, it's the same idea.
No, it's not the way. It's not the way British people treat their monarchy, even though they have no power, right? It's like everybody wants to know what they're. So there is something to that. That is one level, and I think it's just worth acknowledging that. right, that part of the Mikdash and everything surrounding the Mikdash is a recognition that at the end of the day, we are affected by sounds and sights and smells and aesthetics, and if we're affected by it, we might as well utilize it for Dvarim Shebekdusha and use it to motivate ourselves and to inspire us. That's one level. The second thing, though, about the bigdei kehuna is that they seem to be doing more than that. What? So really there's three things, right? Chazal are very into this idea, right? This is developed extensively in Zvachim and elsewhere, that the bigdei kehuna are also mechaper. But I think what that points to is something which emerges from the Psukim, right? The fact that they are mechaper is not explicit in the Psukim. What is explicit in the Psukim is that there is a second role to the begadim, that is, they are there to allow the Kohanim to represent Klal Yisrael. And therefore, many of the most symbolic things in them are, think about it, V'lakachta, this is Perek Chet, Pasuk Tet, right, towards the beginning of the descriptions for the Choshen. V'lakachta shtei avnei shoam u'fitachta lehem shmot b'nei Yisrael. You got two stones with six names. Shisha mishmotam al even achad v'shemot shisha notarim al even hashenit kitolodotam. Right, you have two stones on his shoulders with the names of Klal Yisrael, and then you skip to Pasuk Yud Bet, V'samtad shtei avanim al kitvod ha'ifod, avnei zikaron livnei Yisrael. And they're put there as stones of remembrance of the Jewish people. V'nasa Aaron et shmotam lifnei Adonai al shtei chatevav v'zikaron. And Aaron will carry them before God on his two shoulders as a commemoration of the Jewish people. Right? And then when you get, sorry, this isn't even the Choshen yet, right? This is right on the ephod. And then when you get to the Choshen, you have it again, right? Because you have in Pesach Chaf Aleph, Va'avanim tihyena al shmot b'nei Yisrael, shtei Yisrael al shmotam, pituchei chotam, ish al shmoti, and al shnei asar shafet. So part of them, and I think this is sort of where Chazal getting this notion of kapara. Right now, Chazal specify that each beged is mechaper for something else, but I think their cue that the begadim have a role for Klal Yisrael, right? Not just like for the ambiance of the Mikdash, is from the pshat, is that they are there as a zikaron. They are there because, and we've talked about this, that kohanim shluchei derechmana, kohanim shluchei didan. Right, what exactly is their role in terms of representing us? At some level, it's clear they're representing us, and the begadim themselves are supposed to manifest that in a
outward form.
Yeah, in an outward way. You get this in just to throw out two other places where you get it besides for the names. One is this sort of striking image that I don't think we think about enough, which is the tzitz. What is the tzitz?
It says Kodesh Hashem.
Yeah, but what exactly is it doing, right? What does it seem to be doing? Al pi pshat.
What's it again?
It's the headband, right? The headband the Kohen Gadol wears.
It's a crown.
It's not really a crown, right?
It's like a branding.
So I think it's even more than that.
I mean, a crown is a type of branding.
I think it's more than that. You could look at it as a crown, but I think part of it is it is to God what tzitzis is for us.
That was like one of my
right? We look at our tzitzis to remember God, and God looks at the tzitz to remember us, right? It has the same word. It's almost the same word, tzitz, right? So it's written Kodesh Lashem. It's for God, right? And what ties it? Til Tchelet, right? But remember, it can't be. How do I know it's for God? Besides the fact that it says for God, right? Because the Kohen Gadol can't see it because it's on his head. Right? The only thing you can't see is what's right here, right? Which means that it can't be for him to see it. So why is it, right? Then who's looking at it?
Symbolization of God.
Yeah, it's another one of the Zikaron Livnei Yisrael, right? Zikaron of Bnei Yisrael. And the Choshen as well, right? The whole notion of the Choshen HaMishpat, right? That in some level, like it is supposed to, it's not just the names on the Choshen, the whole Choshen is supposed to, at some level, it's not really clear, but it seems to be representing or reminding God that He's supposed to treat us justly or something like that, right? Like something like that. It's not totally clear. I was listening to a shir by Ray Foreman this week. He suggested maybe it's, yes, he's always wonderful. That it's
pay for it.
What? You had to pay for it for years.
Really?
Yes. And he argued that the Choshen Ha-mishpat, right? He notes that linguistically, there are very few places in the Torah where we have mishpat of someone, right? You have the notion of mishpat in general, justice in general, but there are very few times when you talk about the mishpat of somebody, and one of them is the mishpat evyon, right? And one of them is mishpat b'nei Yisrael. Right, which sounds like not like just justice in the theoretical, but like, mishpat evyon is make sure that the people who are not necessarily going to get justice because they are weak, make sure that they get justice too. Right, like that's not just theoretical justice, that's like they need it. Right, mishpat evyon is, he's not likely going to get it, so you have to make sure that he actually gets justice and it becomes possessive. And he argues that the same thing is going on with the Choshen, that it's mishpat b'nei Yisrael, is that it's, so to speak, the Kohen going to God. God doesn't really have to treat us justly, right? Right? He can do whatever he wants. No one's going to stop him. But so to speak, God wants the Kohen Gadol to represent the Jewish people and bring mishpat b'nei Yisrael to God. So I think that's sort of the second level of what you see in bigdei kehuna, right? Beyond just kavod u'tifaret. There's also this notion of zikaron, of being a means by which the Jews are remembered, whatever that means to God, or maybe more specifically, right? They're meant to represent the way the Kohanim are really our messengers, and in that sense, supposed to garner favor or whatever that means, such that God treats us more favorably. And that I think is the second and 2.5, right? However you want to, right? How distinct zikaron is from kapara, I'm not totally sure, right? But those are clearly related notions that are worth thinking about while we're going through the otherwise painstaking details of the bigdei kehuna.